Hi everyone, welcome. And in this video, we are going to talk about your physical security and security architecture and design. Okay, let us start. Let me just open my pen. Okay, now your physical security is the protection of your personnel, hardware, software, networks, and data from the physical actions and events that could cause serious loss or damage to an enterprise, agency, or the institution. This also includes protection of your physical security and your information from fire, flood, natural disasters, theft, vandalism, and terrorism. Now, your physical security is often overlooked and its importance is underestimated in favor of more technical threats such as your hacking. You remember those threats? Your malwares. What else? Your cyber espionage. Okay? They are all subject to these threats. However, breaches of physical security can be carried out with brute force and little or no technical knowledge on the part of the attacker. And that is why we need your physical security. Now, what are the components of your physical security? You have number one, your access control. So every time I change my slide, I have to set up my pen. Anyway, access control starts at the outer edge of your security perimeter. So this is your starting point, okay? Which must be established in the early process. Your entity can use fencing and video surveillance to monitor access to the facility and secure the outdoor data. Again, what can you use? You can use fencing or video surveillance. Okay. Now, you can use that especially if there is an on-site parking or other outside resources. A comprehensive access control system and strategy include your advanced lock, access control card, mobile phone, biometric authentication, and authorization. Now, most spaces start their access control at the front door because that is your starting point of your control. You should know who is entering. Okay, you should know who is only allowed to enter. So, yung iba, or the others, I should say, I cannot speak in Tagalog pala, no? The others, before they can enter, they have, let's say, the biometrics as identification of who can only enter the room. Let's say that's a warehouse, who can only enter a warehouse or who has the access to the warehouse. So the door on your entrance, okay, that's the first control that you should have, or that is the area where the first control should be established. Okay. Now, at the end of the day, each employee swipes out using the same process. Okay? You swipe in when you enter, you swipe out when you exit, just like what you do in UC. Who are the only students allowed to enter? UC students as much as possible. That is why your security guards are trying their best to monitor. Although, however, I think there are some who can enter even without ID, and that must be mitigated, that control, because there are some students, even though they are as students of UC, they can enter. And for the others, they are entering because number one, the ID is not inspected whether the ID or the person in the ID is the same person who is entering. Another is there are times that the guards are not checking if the person entering is really from UC. So tendency is if that student is from UB and then there's an event, okay, or even if there's an event, they can really enter the school, okay, and just say or and just wear UCI delays or borrow their friends' IDs so they can enter, okay? Anyway, so that is your number one control. Next control is surveillance. It is another important component to consider regarding your physical control. Modern security system can take advantage of multiple types of sensor, including ones that detect motion, heat, smoke, for protection against intrusion and accidents. Okay? So your number one control for that is your surveillance. And your number three is your testing. Okay? Now, when disasters strike, an entity need to act fast and in accordance with their adopted procedure. That is why most of them need to test their disaster recovery plan on a regular basis. Let us say your recovery plan in case of earthquake, in case of fire. That is why UC is conducting your earthquake drill, or some of the corporate entities also conduct their own earthquake drill, their own fire drill. They test their contingency plans. Okay? All right. So next one that we have here is the layers of your physical security. Again, I will open my pen. You have layers of physical security. Number one is your deterrence. Okay, or deterrence. This is the initial layer of your security. Kindly take note of that one. And the goal of deterrence is to convince unwanted person that a successful effort to enter an unauthorized area is unlikely. Okay? Your fences, your walls, vehicle barriers, electronic card access, and cameras and entryways are example of deterrence provision. Again, you have your fences, your walls, vehicle barriers, and your electronic card access as well as your camera. And they will serve as your deterrence, meaning once they are detected, they cannot enter already your facility. Next, detection. This is the second layer of your physical security. They locate, identify, and contain the movement of an unwanted person who have gained unauthorized entry to the building. And now, your alarm are centrally received within the Department of Public Safety. Your detection devices will include your door alarms, you have your glass break, and your motion sensor. Okay? Again, for your detection devices, you have your door alarms. Another, you have your glass break. And number three, motion sensor. Ito yung kapag ma-open yung door mo or once the door is open, okay, an alarm will be set up. Or once the glass was broken, okay, or any motion sensor, there will be an alarm in place. Next one, you have your delay. Your delay will impede, isolate, and forestall the movement of an unwanted party within the building. It will create a delay on the part of the unwanted person entering the building. Let us say the purpose is for theft or purpose is not for any authorized access. Okay? This layer of your physical security will delay the purpose of the unauthorized person. And next one is your response. The response will ensure that coordinated, interactive, and reliable communication system and procedure are in place to facilitate your immediate and effective response from your public safety. And because of this, you also have your security control. Number one on your security control, and this is part of your answers during your activity, you have number one, perimeter security. Your perimeter security refers to the natural barriers or built fortification to either keep intruders out or keep captives contained within the area. The boundary surrounds. The next one, you are most familiar with this. You have your closed circuit television or CCTV. And this is one of the most important physical security control to address terrorism and other security threats. CCTV has incomparable value as a forensic tool as well as in deterring all types of physical and electronic threats. So Nowadays, in every established that you enter, you can now take a pose on your CCTV. So of course, that's not the main purpose of your CCTV. The main purpose is to check, number one, all the actions inside the facility, and to check, okay, if all are allowed to enter. Next one, secure server room. Your secure server room is a control access to the overall premises of the company. Again, this is a control access to the overall premises of your company. Your company should tightly guard the rooms in which your servers and backups are stored. You guard the physical hardware just as you would control digital access to your sensitive data. The next one, you have your device management. Your device management is the process of managing and implementing, operating and maintaining the physical and virtual device. It is a broad term that will include your various administrative tools and processes for the maintenance and upkeep of a computing, network, mobile, and virtual device. That is your device management. So your company or every entity must also have device management so that everything in place will be updated and in function. Next one, you have your air-gapped wireless fidelity connection. So did you know that your Wi-Fi mini is wireless fidelity? You must know that. Okay? So every day you are using that. So you should know, just like your USB, it must not be USB. You should be usually saying that it is your flash drive, okay? Because the USB is just part of your flash drive. Anyway, your air-gapped Wi-Fi networks is the process of establishing password-protected, encrypted guest Wi-Fi network completely isolated from your enterprise network. Meaning, this network should only be used, let's say, for your guest, and you have another network for your office use. Because if there's an access, okay, for your office use Wi-Fi, what will happen? The tendency is there could be intrusion like in your system, okay, on your physical system, and that actually happened on our case. Okay, we have one visitor. What happened? Since we are sharing the same Wi-Fi, the tendency or what happened is that visitor was able to see like the reports or the items that should not be seen by a visitor. What happened or what did he do? He just tried or he just experimented in opening the system. Now, upon experimenting, what happened is he saw some of the pictures that must only be confidential. And what was the reason? The reason is because we were sharing the same Wi-Fi network. Okay, so you have to separate the Wi-Fi network of your office from the Wi-Fi network of your guests only. Okay. So that is for your physical security control. Next one, let's have your security architecture and design. What is your security architecture and design? The security architecture and design is a systematic approach to improve network security and mitigate the risk. Again, that is your approach on improving network security and mitigating risk. Your security architecture refers to the system, processes, the tools in place used to prevent and mitigate attacks or threats on the security. And your design refers to how the security and architecture is built. And you have the three components. Number one, the tool you are using. Number two, the people involved in the use of the tool. And number three, the procedure followed as you use your tool. Okay? Now you have the phases of security architecture. For the phases of the security architecture, you have your security risk assessment, which help you evaluate the vital business processes and determine the effects of ad security and vulnerability. You have your second phase, the security design. It is the approach to software and hardware development to seek of making them free from security threats and vulnerability. Your third phase is the implementation. For the implementation, that deals with the techniques and procedure used to implement, operate, and control software and hardware within the organization. And your operating and monitoring. Your operating and monitoring involves the day-to-day security activities, just like your threat management and vulnerability control. Actually, one of your most important part in your security architecture is the way you operate and monitor your security design and architecture. Again, you have your architecture risk assessment, you have your security design, implementation and operation and monitoring. Now you have here information security framework. Your information security framework is a comprehensive plan for the implementation and ongoing operation of the tool and practices necessary to protect the organization data and system. It is also here where you can see that your confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data must be protected. The point of implementing an information security framework is essential to reduce risk as it provides daily and emergency procedure for ensuring security. Okay? It provides, again, I will open my pen. Your information security framework provides, okay, daily and emergency procedures. Okay? For ensuring your security. Your framework provides a what-if blueprint for effective disaster response and common security concern. Meron siyang what-if blueprint, or it adapts your what-if blueprint to effectively check, okay, disaster response and common community or security concerns. Next, you have your security or common security framework. Your common security framework, let me just open again my pen. Your common security framework and information security framework are often used interchangeably, but please do not, okay? Of course, along with the other term under your information security management. But your CSF or your common security framework is commonly referred to as your brand name. It is commonly referred as your brand name. Okay? Brand name of your information security frameworks. A framework could be as simple as a single page outline that would define or that would definitely and effectively for most organization. Okay? Your CSF is a simple page outline and it would definitely not be effective for most organization because if you just have a simple one, it can be of high risk or it can be subject to your security threats. Your CSF are the comprehensive standardized system developed by national and international bodies adopted by many enterprises. So these are national security frameworks. Next item is you have your security hardware architecture. By the way, you also have your security domain. Your security domain is the list of the object a subject is allowed to access. That is your security domain. Again, let me just open my pen because every time I have to open it. Kindly take note of your security domain. Your security domain is the list of objects a subject is allowed to access. Again, what's your subject? Again, your user. And more broadly defined, domains are group of subject and object with similar security requirements. They are confidential, secret, and top secrets are the three security domains. Okay? What are the top 3 security domains? You have your confidential, you have your secret, and you have your top secret. Okay? Now, for your security or your secure hardware architecture, your secure hardware architecture focuses on the physical computer hardware. Okay, again, it focuses on your physical computer hardware required to have a secure system. So your hardware must have a secure system. The hardware must provide confidentiality, integrity, and availability for processes, data, and user. So for the security purposes, your hardware architecture must protect against the CIA of your system. Let us start with your system unit and motherboard. The system unit is in the computer's case and it contains all internal electronic computer components. You all know the basics of this one. And your motherboard contains the hardware including your CPU, the memory slots, the firmware, and peripheral slots such as your peripheral component interconnection. Now, the CPU is the brain of the computer and capable of controlling and performing mathematical calculation. Okay? So, these two items must be protected physically. Number one, in terms of security, not all must be allowed to access them or not all must be allowed to have their physical presence. Okay? Next one, you have your arithmetic logic unit and control unit. The arithmetic logic unit or ALU will perform your mathematical calculation and it computes. It is fed instruction by the control unit which act as your traffic cop and will send instruction to your ALU. You also have your pipelining that is connected to this. And your pipelining combines multiple steps into one combined processes, allowing simultaneous fetch, decode, execute, and write step for different instruction. Although this is already part of your IT management system or IT department already. Next, on your hardware architecture, you should secure also your processes and your threads. Okay? Your processes is an executable program and its associated data loaded and running in memory. Now, a heavyweight process or HWP is called a task. A heavyweight process or HWP is also called your task. Okay? A parent process may spawn additional child processes called your thread. Okay? So your thread are your small processes. A thread is a lightweight process. Your thread is a lightweight process. If that is heavyweight process, it is called your task. For lightweight process, it is called your thread. The thread are able to share memory, resulting in lower overhead compared to heavyweight processes. Next, your processes may exist in multiple states. So it's not yet included here. Number one, you have new. Okay? New process, meaning a process is created. Next one, you have your ready. Now, in this state, your process is waiting to be executed by the CPU. Next one, you have your blocked. Number three, you have your running first. So let's write it down. Number one, new. Number two, ready. Number three, running. When you say running, meaning the process is being executed by the CPU. Next one, number four, blocked. What happened? Okay? For blocked, meaning there is waiting being processed. Okay? So there is waiting for your internal operation or internal process. Next, you have the last one. You have your terminate. Okay? So that is also the end of your process, or the process is already completed. So next one, under your hardware architecture, you have your multitasking and multiprocessing. This is where application run as processes in memory comprised of executable code and data. Your multitasking allows multiple tasks or your heavyweight processes to run simultaneously in one control processing unit. The older and simpler operating systems such as your MS-DOS are non-multitasking and they run one process at a time. But of course, your modern systems such as your Windows can support your multitasking. The next one that should be secured for your hardware architecture is your memory. Your memory is a series, not serious. It is a series of on-off switches representing your bits, okay? And your memory may be chip-based, it can be disk-based, or it use other media such as your tape, okay? Your RAM or your random access memory means your sequential read memory, or meaning your CPU may randomly access or jump into any location memory. And your sequential memory must be sequentially read memory beginning at offset 0 to the desired memory or portion of your memory. You also have your volatile memory, such as your RAM, which loses integrity after a power loss. So please remember your RAM, this will lose your information integrity, because what will happen, your information is not saved, even especially if, I should say, there's a power interruption. Now, real or primary memory such as RAM is directly accessible by the CPU and is used to hold instruction and data for currently executing processes. And of course, you have your secondary memory such as disk-based memory, and this is not directly accessible. So that is for your RAM and your ROM. Okay. By the way, you also have your cache memory. Do you remember that? Cache memory. Your cache memory is the fastest memory on the system required to keep up the CPU as you fetch or as it fetch and execute instruction. The data most frequently used by the CPU is stored in cache memory. The fastest portion of the CPU cache is the register file, which contains, of course, your multiple registers. And the registers are just small storage location used by the CPU to store instructions and data. Another item connected to your RAM and ROM is your DRAM and SRAM. Your SRAM, let's start with that. Okay. SRAM, or your static random access memory. Static random access memory. Your static random access memory is expensive and fast memory that uses small latches called flip-flop to store bits. And then you have the other one, you have your dynamic random access memory. Your dynamic random access memory stores bits in small capacitors. You have your small batteries as an example, and it is slower and cheaper than your SRAM. Your capacitor used by DRAM leak charge and must be continually refreshed to maintain integrity, typically every few to few hundred milliseconds. Of course, depending on the type of your dynamic random access memory. Just another note, your SRAM or your static random access memory will not require refreshing and maintains integrity as long as the power is supplied. Okay, that is your SRAM. So for your memory protection, you should protect your memory as part of your hardware architecture security, okay, in order to prevent one process from affecting the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of another information or another process. This is a requirement for security or for the secure or multi users. Security not only of the information, but of course security of the users. Okay? Now, more than one user can log in simultaneously to your system. That is why you have to secure and you have to implement control on your system. Number one, physical system. Number two, on your processing systems. So you have your control. Another control, you have your process isolation. It is a logical control that will attempt to prevent one process from interfering with the other. Let's write it down on our whiteboard. Let me share to you the whiteboard. So you have our control already. Number one, you have your process isolation. Under your process isolation, one process must be independent or must not interfere with the other. And this is a common feature among multi-user operating system. Next one, you have your hardware segmentation. Your hardware segmentation takes process isolation one step further by mapping processes to specific memory location. And this provides more security than your logical process isolation alone. Next, you have your virtual memory. So this is part of your information control, your virtual memory. It will provide address mapping between application and hardware memory. Your virtual memory provides many functions, including your multitasking, and will allow multiple processes to access the same shared library in the memory, and you can also swap and do other processes. Now, your system can be subject to vulnerability, threats, and countermeasures. So your system threats, vulnerability, and countermeasure will describe security architecture and design vulnerability and the corresponding exploits that may compromise system security. Okay? So in order to secure your system, you must assess and mitigate security vulnerabilities such as your vulnerability of your computer architecture, your hardware, your processor. Okay? And of course, the way you execute processes. You have multitasking and of course with your multi-programming. Let's go back to the slides before we end. Okay. So yeah, that is the end. Now, for your security, again, you have to do preventive, okay, and corrective measures as well. So you have to place control on your system, not only on your system, but on the physical environment of your system. Let us say your warehouse, your rooms, your facilities. You should be implementing a good security system, just like having your CCTV, your biometrics, who can only enter or who cannot enter the system. Okay? You have to identify them one by one. And of course, so that even if the facility is left, okay, The security items are only there, functioning. You do not have someone to monitor them, okay? Of course, there will be someone to oversee, but of course not on a 24-hour basis. Because at least, let's say, if your CCTV is functioning well, you can just leave your CCTV functioning, okay? And you can inspect later on, let us say, after the 5-hour vacant time of the system or of the warehouse, you can check if there are any unauthorized entry. Of course, let us say you have the building as a whole, the facility. Before anyone can enter, they must um, secure their biometrics on your system. So if the biometrics does not match with theirs, okay, they are not allowed to enter. Or let us say the door will not open, uh, let the vault will not be open for them, okay, and they will not be allowed to enter. And then on your computers, you should also protect your password. In terms of your password, you should also change more frequently. Do not stick with only one password, because if you stick with one password and then you allow another user to use it using your password, okay, even if you did not disclose your password to them, they might be changing, or they might be altering. Therefore, comprehend, I should not comprehending. What do you call this? Um, sacrificing the integrity of your network and of your system, and of course the information involved. Okay, so that is for your security, architecture, and design.